Hello, everybody. Welcome to Wine and Real Estate.
Bienvenue tout le monde.
So tonight we welcome James Burchill. Really excited to have him on. And this episode is brought you in part by Streetwise Mortgages. Please make sure to call Dalia Barsoum and her team for all your mortgage needs. Jennifer and I, we should count how many deals.
We've done quite a few. We'll count for the next time.
Next time, yeah. So Streetwise Mortgages, I think it's streetwisemortgages.ca. Reach out to their team. They're excellent if you're looking to refinance, buy deals, or plan for your real estate investments. Mm-hmm. So that's it. Thank you. And James, thank you so much for accepting our invitation. Yes. We can't wait to learn more about like passive income. I've heard you on different podcasts, different interviews, and I just think you have a very exciting background. And you could tell us more about yourself.
Tell us a little bit about yourself for people that don't know maybe who is James Burchill and what does he do?
Oh, good Lord. That's the $64,000 question. Who am I and what do I do? Well, first of all, just thank you very much for inviting me onto your show. I really appreciate it. I was born and raised in England. My mom and dad were entrepreneurs. My dad was an engineer as well. And we moved around a lot when I was small. So I got the opportunity because I kept moving around. Okay, there's a pluses and minuses to all these things, right? So we moved around a lot. So I wasn't able to make lots of long-standing friendships, but because of this constant moving, I had to find other ways to entertain myself. And I became very, very interested in writing and art and computers. And by the time I was, I think, 8 or 9, one of my uncles on my mom's side had a computer, an Apple II, one of the early Apple computers. And to this day, I can't quite figure out why he let me and my cousin loose on this thing every weekend when we were over. But we learned to program. And by the time I was thinking 8 or 9, I think I was 9. Anyway, don't quote me. So it would have been 1978, 1979. So you can do the math. Sold my first software program that I'd written. And in 1981, my father, my mom and dad, we moved to Africa, Sudan to be specific.
Wow.
And I'd been writing and doing all this computer stuff. And I was part of this pen pal club for the local newspaper in Bristol, England, which is where I lived at the time. And I still can't quite figure out how and why I did this, but I wrote to the editor of the local news, Bristol Post, as it's called. And I pitched them on this idea of a column. And so I'm 12, I'm like 11 going on, like, I think I turned 12 when we first got there. And I pitched them on this idea of a column and they said, hey, that sounds like fun. So I ended up getting a paid gig at 12 years old to write a newspaper column for a newspaper in Bristol, England. Mm-hmm. So I'm tapping away on a little typewriter in Africa and we're mailing these letters.
Mailing letters.
I know, we were mailing letters. And they paid me. I had a recurring column. So I was like 9, I sold my first software. By the time I was 12, I had a recurring newspaper article. I had a column in a newspaper, and I was hooked. This idea of turning thoughts and words into money, it was just like, like I was a kid. I barely got any pocket money. My parents weren't super wealthy. I mean, they weren't poor, but the economy in the 70s and 80s wasn't great.
No.
And I was making a decent amount of money for a 12-year-old kid. And that was really what got me started. And then I stuck with computers. Actually, I went to art college and computer college at the same time, which is really weird.
Usually it doesn't go together.
It doesn't normally work, but if you go to a private school and your parents are paying for tuition, you can do completely. Yeah, I know. I was lucky in that regard. And I came out the other side with the credentials in both careers. And I was offered a job within the first week of graduating in both careers. I was offered a job as a fine artist and graphic designer because I'm trained as that. And I was offered a job as a programmer because I'm trained as that. And the programmer paid like twice as much money as the graphic designer. So guess which one I took? And I still have my original art equipment downstairs in the basement. I have my art kit from I was 17 in art college. I still have my Russian sable paintbrushes, which I saved up and paid for because they're extraordinarily expensive.
Wow.
And my paint is actually dried solid now. So my My tubes of paint are Bricks. I mean, they're actually gouache, which is a form of watercolor. So
And you can
anyway,
use water. I was gonna say, yeah, you can reactivate it, I guess, somehow.
well, you know what? What's really interesting. This is a complete aside for people, and I'm sorry if it's a bit of a tangent. I treated myself to an iPad about 3 months ago. Yeah, this is an iPad 4 Air, and it's got the, as you can see, the
oh
Apple
yeah,
Pencil 2. I bought a piece of software called Procreate, and I always wanted to do digital art when I was in college. But it was too expensive, right? A computer and a tablet, it was just too much for me to pay. It was like $10,000 or $15,000, and obviously in the 80s and 90s, that was just like insane. So I think I just spent $1,000 on this configuration, and the stuff I can do with this, I would have killed for that when I was in college. So anyway, that's my fun now. So, you know, if I'm not writing articles or creating training material, which I'm sure we'll talk about a bit more, I'm either cooking, because I love to cook, or I'm creating art. I did something this past weekend, actually. I decided to try and, a little off topic again, but I decided to try and paint a pepper from memory, a red pepper.
Oh,
And for those that go trolling through my social media over the last 48 hours or so, we'll find it.
I did see that. I was wondering what the pepper
there
was
you
about.
I'm digging back into digital art because I was formerly trained in airbrush techniques and oil paint and all this really clever brush work, and trying to learn how to do that in digital is quite the trip. So it's I'm having fun getting, you know, doing
the shade and shadow and giving it kind of depth
and layers. Yeah, it's like it's a completely different discipline for painting, and it's very, very, very rewarding and loads of fun because it's completely unrelated to anything I do as my day job. So it's a great way to kind of switch off.
Yes,
that's so interesting.
Yeah, and I read on your website the test Myers-Briggs. I guess you scored something very unique, like 2% of people get that.
I'm always a bit in two minds about sharing stuff like that because in 1988, 89, so quite a while back, I was contracting. So I'd left college at this point. Now I'm contracting computers. And I'd done some work for major corporations like Oracle and things like that. But then I decided there was more money to be made freelance. So I started as a contractor. And I found that there was more money to be paid if you're prepared to accept the worst contracts. Like most computer programmers, right? They wanted the cushy jobs. They wanted a 1 to 2 year contract. They wanted this, you know, they wanted lots of money and they didn't want to really work hard for it, which is completely understandable. But I didn't want these long-term contracts. I wanted the contracts that nobody wanted. And most people never wanted a 90-day contract because in 90 days you think, well, what can I do in 90 days? You can do a lot if you know what you're doing. So I started taking all the 90-day contracts, which no one else wanted. And I ended up getting paid a stupid amount of money. Like I was getting, at the time, I think I was 19 or 20. I was getting paid 2 or 3 times the annual income. I think I earned 3 times as much as my parents combined. This is not good family dynamics when the youngest son makes more than mom and dad combined. But the thing that was interesting was I was working at a publishing house, and there was this guy there who was really cool, but he was a pain in the butt, right? He was one of these guys like, I'm smarter than you. I'm like, yeah, whatever, I don't care. Anyway, he was on my case about this thing called Mensa. Now, Mensa is this high IQ society in, I think they came out of the UK. I actually don't know where they come from. But Mensa is this, you know, elite high IQ, you know, society where you basically have to have an IQ over a certain, you got to be in the top 99th percentile of the smartest IQ in the world to qualify. But what you don't know about Mensa is it's a 2-tier society. So you've got to obtain a minimum of 149 to get into the base level. Now that gets you in. If you get like 159 or higher, it puts you in the top 1% of the smartest people. So this guy was bugging me. Turns out he's in Mensa. And I go through you have to pay for the test. It's very rigorous. You got, you know, it's a scientifically administered test. It's timed. You know, there's one guy on your right, one guy on your left, or in my case, it was 2 guys. And they're asking you questions and they're timing you. And if you take too long, they take the book away from you. And it's really scientifically administered because They then take all your information and go away, and then they assess you, and then they give you a rating. Well, I came back with a 1% rating, which put me in the top 1% of the smartest people. Now, I'm low. My IQ's a shade lower than I think Einstein's. I think mine was 159. Technically, and I'm again loath to mention this, but technically on the Cattell scale, which is the IQ system, that means I'm a bona fide genius. Now, as my family used to love telling me, if you're so smart, why aren't you rich? Because there's IQ smart and then there's street smarts. And I've got lots of friends who I consider way smarter than me. I'm really good at stupid puzzles. I'm not necessarily really good. I'm not necessarily really good at the stuff that makes a difference in the real world. I can solve computer stuff. I can solve, like, you can give me a stream of weird numbers like 1, 3, 5, 7, and I can tell you what comes next. And people are like, how the hell did you figure that out? And I'm like, trust me, it's a bizarre skill set. But on top of that, throughout the career, I had to keep getting profiled because I also got moved into management fairly early on. And management always tries to figure out how are you going to do under pressure. And as I was going through management, I ended up being rated as INTJ, which is, I think, intuitive. I can't remember what N stands for. Thoughtful and judgmental, which I always thought was kind of ironic. But yes, it means you're really good with systems. It means you're really good with evaluating problems and solving them. And the INTJs, they're not the rarest. I believe they're the second rarest configuration. My business partner, actually, in my software company, he's actually rarer than me, which he loves to rub my nose in. So, but yes, it does mean I'm uniquely skilled at finding complex, rat's nest problems and then unwinding them and creating repeatable systems from it. That's what I'm good at. I'm not good at everything. I'm just good at, I'm really, really good, probably, like you say, top 2% in the world of a very, very thin wedge. Everything else, I'm dumb as a bag of hammers. It's true.
Yeah.
You're so honest.
That's good, though. Brutally honest. Well,
you know what? People think just because you're clever in one area, you're clever in everything. I am not clever at everything. I am really, I would say that there's one or two areas where I'm like, okay, I'll bring it on. Like, I'll challenge anyone in a tiny little sliver. But everything else, like, nope.
Forget it.
I'm not betting money on that. No, I'd lose. No, absolutely not. So there you go. That's what that means. It just means I'm very skilled at a very esoteric set of things, and everything else I'm in many cases worse than the average person, quite frankly.
Wow.
That's very funny.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So one of the reasons we wanted to have you on is a few months ago now, we did a series on passive income. So we just spoke for 14 days, I think.
Yeah, we did.
14 days of different ways of doing, like, finding passive income.
And François said that that's one of your expertise. Is that in your little
sliver of expertise where you're not dumb?
Yeah, that's right.
I'll admit I'm the same. I'm great at certain things, and other things I like. Oh my goodness!
I hate when he tries those 98 other things.
Like accounting, forget it.
We start drinking our own Kool-Aid, right? Somebody goes, oh, "You're so clever at such and such. What do you think about this?" And you're like, oh, "I'm gonna have a gut." No.
No, it's so bad.
Step away from that. It's not gonna go well.
No.
No, it never does. But yes, passive systems, right? Anything that you can. So basically, anything that you do more than once or twice that you can identify, and there's a pattern to it. In many cases, you can turn it into a system, and in many cases, that system can be digitized. And if you can get it into a computer or an iPad or this, then you can use technology to repeat whatever it was you're going to do. And at that point, the really cool thing about it is you don't need a 100% success ratio. You just need anything. You just need, even a fraction of a percent for these things to be successful, because you're not scaling you anymore. You're now scaling a system. And the moment you can identify something like that and put a system in place like that, you can create revenue streams, money machines that start kicking off. And I was never one And it's not because I didn't want it, because trust me, when I figure out how to create money machines that create like 10 and 20 and $30,000 per stream, trust me, I'm doing it. But I was always looking for the easy wins. So I always look to find, like, if you create something that does 10 or 20 or $30,000, can you imagine how much competition you're going to have? Like, everybody's trying to steal your lunch. They are constantly on your case. They're always like constantly at your door. But if you got something that does, say, $300 a month, nobody cares.
No.
Now,
CRA does.
Well, yes, but they're not trying to take it away from you. They just want a
No.
little piece. The other people are trying to take everything. Now, if you got like, say, a $10 a day, which is $300 a month, or $15 a day, which is $450, $500 a month, and you think, wow, this is cool. Okay, for some people that's life altering, and I'm not here to judge, but I'm not hugely fond of working my tail off just to create one $300, $400, $500 stream. I want 10 or 20 or 30. And if they are under the radar, low threat, nobody's trying to steal your lunch, and you've got, say, 10 or 20 of these $500 income streams, you do the math. That's a really nice passive. It's mostly passive. I'm always loath to say passive income because it's never entirely passive.
No.
But it's pretty damn close. And then you've got, 10, $5, $10, $15,000 a month on autopilot. And here's the other thing that most people don't realize about that. You do not want a single income stream that is responsible for all your money.
No.
You don't want 2 or 3. You actually want at least 10. And the reason you want 10 is because there's always a couple growing, there's always a couple dying, and then there's about 6 or 7 in the middle, which are kind of harvest ready. And the other thing is, if anybody controls more than 20% of your income, or any single source controls more than 20% of your income, there's this issue called effective control. If they have effective control, it means they control your destiny. I could lose 20, 30, 40% of my revenue streams and it would sting and I really wouldn't like it. But there is no single individual out there that goes, James, you're going to do this or I'm going to pull the plug on you.
Yeah.
Nobody gets to call the shots with me. And that is a good thing and a bad thing. It makes it, I mean, it's great for me, but it makes it really, well, it is very freeing. But the problem is it makes it really, really difficult for certain business people because if you decide, for instance, you want to get involved in local politics, or you decide you want to get involved in networking, nobody's got leverage over you. No one's got their foot on your neck. No one can control you. And it makes it, those who are in your camp love you, but those who don't love you are terrified because they don't know how to control you. So, I'm just mentioning that there's pros and cons to it. I'm not interested in any of that stuff. I'm not involved in it. But there was a point a long time ago when I dabbled in it, and I very quickly learned that being free and being able to do these things was a problem, because half the camps that didn't want me to do the things I wanted to do, they weren't happy about it because they couldn't figure out where James's off switch was, because they couldn't influence anyone to shut me down or direct me. And it got really kind of unpleasant. So I stepped away from it all, and I just focused on. It's just human nature, right? People are always trying to control other people, and if they can't figure out how to control you, it can get kind of icky. So anyway, I stepped away from it all, and now I just focus on creating systems of basically automation to create sort of small pools of income that nobody really goes, oh, I want to steal that from James. So no, I don't really have anybody that's constantly hovering around trying to undo me, and it's kind of liberating, and it's information based publishing, books, software, coaching, training, anything you can repeat, recreate, and record, you can digitize.
And super smart. I mean, large companies. I worked for Home Depot years ago, and where they made the most money was on nails. So that's where they had the highest profit. So I think they cost them like 1 cent and they would sell them 3 or something crazy like that. Everything else, the profit margins were much lower. So people don't ever think about it. They're like, oh, they're making a fortune on, I don't know, custom kitchens or something. But it was actually on nails, because the sheer volume and the high, yeah, when they
Well, the
when
low
they-
price. I mean, if they're in bulk, you could probably just buy like one nail, and you wouldn't mind paying 25 cents for that one nail that you need, even if it costs them 1 cent.
yeah, exactly. So that's where like
So
that's
true.
so it was really cool, kind of like your small revenue streams that no one pays attention to. Well, there it is for home building. Well, right now lumber is making a killing, but I mean,
It all
things
adds up.
change. Yeah, it adds up. So wow, that's really smart to diversify, and you help other people do the same. I think you do coaching and you have a program
Yeah.
around it. So
Yeah, I've never been. I've never been one. Okay, so I always believe that. Okay, this is going to sound a little kind of woo-woo, but I've always believed that you could never love someone too much. I don't believe love, for instance, was finite, and the reason I mention that is because I believe that that you can't really. I don't believe you can short the bank. I think that if you create value, you're never really going to be on the wrong side of that equation. I've never thought that I need to figure stuff out and it's mine. I've never thought I can't tell anybody. I have to be quiet and keep this to myself. I'm sure there's times in my life where if I'd been a little more ruthless about it, I might have made a bit more money in the short term. But I don't like having to spend energy trying to watch my back or look over my shoulder. And I like to sleep at night. And so
yes.
I made a really conscious decision early on that was, and I chose this idea. So this idea is that, like love, information and goodness is infinite, and the more I give out, the more I get back. I don't create and produce because I expect to get paid, but I don't do it with the expectation. When I'm giving things away, I don't do it with the expectation like you must give me something. I just generally think, as an overall strategy, if you create with no expectation of repayment, the universe just balances the books. And I've gone through life. Plus, I hate keeping ledgers. I don't like keeping track of who got what. People talk about this thing called win-win, right?
Yeah.
It's a win-win deal. That really, really bugs me, because a win-win relationship requires one thing that really annoys me, and that means you need to keep score, which means they're your friend, or they're the person you care about, and you've gone and created this thing called a win-win relationship, and everyone's like, oh, aren't you great? It's win-win. It's like, hang on a sec. This means that quietly behind the scenes, when your friend does something good, you're sitting there going, this was okay, one for them, one for me.
Now I win next time. Yeah.
It's a shitty way of doing business, because you ultimately are wasting energy trying to keep track. And you instinctively know if you're dealing with a person who's a giver or a taker. You don't need to ledger it up. So I don't. Now, yeah, sure. Does that mean people can take advantage of me? Briefly, because we all know when we're in a relationship with a person who's, giving freely and everything just moves, or you're in a relationship with a person who's a taker.
Yeah.
And so I've always been of the mind to create, like, I like to learn things and solve problems, and then I like to turn around and I like to share it. I mean, I love publishing. The idea that you can solve a problem and it's like, oh my God, like thousands of people want to know that. If I can give it away, I'll give it away. If I can sell it for, I'll try and figure out, either give it away, or if I have to sell it because it was expensive to produce the solution, I'll try and figure out a way of selling it for the least amount of money, because I just figure, you know what? There's tomorrow. If people need it, I would rather sell it for half the price, so twice as many people can get the solution. And I know that might not be the smartest business move, but honestly, one of the things I learned early on was, I don't need that much money. I mean,
it's surprising.
You don't. Like, people think, oh, you need millions. It's like, all right, fine. There's certain things you want, but I don't think too many people realize that when you start hitting the low six figures, aside from buying islands, there really isn't too much that you cannot not have. Right?
That's it. That's crazy. Yeah, buying islands.
You didn't buy an island, James?
No country.
Too much upkeep. Don't want the overhead.
Well, that's it. That's the thing. A lot of people are like, I'm going to buy thousands of this. I'm like, oh, you have to maintain all that stuff.
People don't get it. It's like, a long time ago, someone said to me, because when I was young, I was making a stupid amount of money, like a lot of money very early on. And I started buying a lot of stuff, which of course, you're going to do. And I had this house that I bought, and I had the flashy sports cars, and I had the watches and the guns, and I had guns. In England, I like clay shooting. I used to do sport clay. I didn't shoot animals. I used to shoot. It was an English thing, you know. We used to, hey, I'm going to do
Like in
sporting
Downton Abbey.
clay. Yes, I'm going to shoot small orange discs of clay flying through the air at the club. Anyway, I used to do that. But I realized one day that you don't own stuff. Stuff owns you.
Yeah.
And it's not that I'm certainly not against stuff. Trust me, I love the latest. I just bought $1,000 iPad that I didn't need. I wanted it so I could draw, right? It's not that I don't. I've found a use for it now. But it's not that I have a problem with stuff. It's just you need to be careful, because stuff can be it can be a blessing and a curse. Everything is a blessing and everything is a curse.
Yeah.
That was another thing someone said to me a long time ago. It's like, everything is a blessing and everything is a curse all the time. No matter whatever it is, there's a duality to it all the time. And I remember just thinking, find a way to find a balance for yourself so that you can enjoy what you want, like enjoy what you've got, allow yourself the flexibility. But you know what? I've always felt far more fortunate than many people I've met along the way. And I've always figured that I don't need that much. So what I don't need, share. And if that means I can share my time and I can share my knowledge and I can give stuff back to people, I try and do what I can. I mean, we're not here forever. And honestly, I can't take any of it with me. So I'm sure people smarter than me have tried, but I just figure as long as I can have a nice day and do the things I want to do, I'll try and do everything in my power to make a difference in other people's lives. That's why I teach.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and it's probably also the automation is probably helping you to reach a lot more people, because then you're repeating, which is okay, but then you're constantly repeating. So yeah, I totally get it, and it's knowing how to do it, because there is a bit of a formula behind this repetition. I mean,
yeah, and I don't like repeating myself. I learned early on in my career. I love they throw me in. So when I was early on in my consulting career, they the companies I work for, they'd take me to these businesses and they'd throw me in the deep end, and I'd walk in and be like, okay, what's the problem? And they'd be like, oh, well, and then they'd do bleh, and they'd throw up this really complex situation, and I'd sit there and I'd map it all out. I'd map out all the inputs, all the outputs, and I'd figure out what the map was. And then I'd figure out how to digitize it, and I'd figure out how to systemize it, and I'd figure out the organic, what we used to refer to as organic streamlining. That's firing people.
That's a good one.
I wasn't hugely fond of that part of my job, because I was very good at making people unnecessary. Because if the person's doing the same thing over and over and over again, it can be done. It can be automated. It can be done by a robot. It can be done by software. And so what anyway, I never enjoyed that part of it. But ultimately, it was all about trying to find ways to create repetition. And if you can repeat it, then you can automate it. And if you can automate it, which is what I like to do, then I would use systems to do it, because I really don't like being like, one of the things I used to hate the most as a consultant was being asked the same question twice. Because it was just like, why am I solving the same problem twice? I've already consumed energy figuring out the problem. Go read the damn report or run the software. Stop asking me to do the same thing. I honestly, when I was
a kid,
I was so arrogant when I was younger. I mean, there's a fine line between arrogance and confidence, right?
Yeah.
Do you know, I'm going to ask a silly question, but it's for the benefit of your viewers. So do you know the difference between arrogance and confidence? This is the question that was challenged to me a long time ago. And I thought, I'm not quite sure. So I went looking. And the difference between arrogance and confidence is this. Arrogance is you think you're smart, you think you know how to answer the question, and you demonstrate your sense of superiority by being a bit of an ass to other people. So what's confidence? You think you're smart, you think you know the right answer, but you don't demonstrate your superiority by being an ass to other people. So the difference between one and the other is whether or not you demonstrate your basically looking down on people for not knowing the answer. Now, the worst part about this is if you're dealing with people who have self-esteem issues, You can walk up to a person who's an alpha or a person who's very self-assured, and you can sit there and go, blah, 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 and tell them the answer. And they're like, damn, that was cool. Then everybody's riffing and it's great. Nobody thinks that you're arrogant. They just think, this guy's confident, knows his stuff. Everything's peachy. You tell that exact same scenario to a person who's got low self-esteem, and that person's just going to melt and shrink, and they're going to go, that guy's arrogant. He's mean. He's this, he's that.
Yeah.
So arrogance and confidence is whether or not you treat other people poorly, of which you have control. But the one thing you don't have control over is whether the other individual has low self-esteem, because if they have low self-esteem, your confidence will be perceived as arrogance. And I constantly had to deal with that, through the ranks, going through my, my consulting career in the first 10 years or so, because you have to be confident. You're walking into an environment where you don't have a clue what's going on, and you have to figure out the solution. And, you've got businesses, and in some cases, millions of dollars on the line, and they're looking at you going, what do we do, James?
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I don't know. That's not going to work,
That's not an answer.
Not if you want to get rehired, or, if you don't want to get fired. No. Anyway, it's a little off topic, but it's kind of relevant to the whole thing. So yeah, that's why I love, I love creating training. I love teaching people, because it's something that I want to share, but it's like, don't ask me to do it again. Just please don't. I don't want to repeat myself. It drives me cuckoo.
So are you training people in programming? Is that your passion?
Some of it is. You're
more diversified than that?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Much more.
So back at, let's see. So when was my first official training job? I think I was 18 when I got my first contract to teach. And so I was teaching. So back then I was teaching predominantly computer science and databases. And then by the time I think I was 22, I was teaching at university as a professor. I was teaching computer science. I was teaching machine code programming. I was teaching hacking. I was also teaching, what else was I teaching? Don't remember now. About 10 years ago. Then I got to Canada in 94, 95. So by about 96, I was teaching at Sheridan College. And then about 7, 8 years ago, I was teaching at McMaster. And then I was teaching marketing, public relations, computer science. It's really cool to be called a professor, but the pay absolutely blows. And I hate marketing. And I absolutely hate marketing because I hate repeating myself. So,
and it's repetition. It's all about repetition.
I loved teaching in class, and I still do live. Well, not right now due to COVID, but I love doing live teaching from time to time just because it's fun. But the amount of work that's involved in teaching a live class and the amount of energy that it takes from me, it usually takes me about 2 days to recover afterwards. I am absolutely wiped, because I'm an introspective individual. I don't get my energy from the room. So that's the difference between introverts and extroverts for the viewers that don't know.
Yeah, some people feed from the crowd, and yeah.
I have my own battery. I don't need a crowd to make me kind of go, ooh, look, monkey see, monkey do. I'm self-funded on the energy front, and I can show up and I do all my stuff. And then when I go home, I'm just like, bye-bye. And I just pass, like, I need to recharge. But yeah, from a teaching perspective, I teach marketing, I teach communication, I teach writing, the big ones for me are automation, productivity, workflow, streamlining. I like to teach people how to publish. I've got a couple of training courses on how to publish books, how to use some of the productivity software around that publishing. Ultimately, anything to help people figure out how to not have to repeat themselves. It's funny, I tried a long time ago, and I never had the courage to actually run with it as a slogan. But it was something along the lines of, something like stop repeating yourself, or how to stop repeating yourself. I'm going to teach you how to basically do it once, and get paid thereafter. But that didn't resonate too well with people because they thought I was being, weird.
Arrogant.
Arrogant.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's being a dick. He's like, yeah, that's unfortunately how it was perceived. So I tell people pretty much what I do now is, mean, the umbrella term is workflow automation. And
Okay.
within a business, you've got all these things that need to get done. Like you've got marketing and sales and operations and manufacturing and then all the internal stuff. These are all the major business functions. In each of these functions, and I pretty much probably automated and streamlined every single one of these functions at some point in my career. You look at this and you look to use digitization and systems to repeat this so you can remove the organic variable, people, right? So that the people can go off and do the things that people are really, really good at. We're really good at creative stuff. Like right now, we're hearing a lot of AI stuff. You know, AI can write poetry, and it can create pictures. I love artificial intelligence. It's what got me into computers back in the 70s. So for over, nearly 50 years now, I've been tracking this industry. And as much as it's come a long way, it's really not got very far. It's a lot cleverer than it was, but it still can't write a sonnet. It still can't really create good, it can't write a love story, not one that really, really hits the mark. It can do a pretty good facsimile, and if you're not paying attention, you might go, oh, that's clever. But, if you're really paying attention, you'll go, that doesn't seem right. Or that feels
something's missing.
We know, like we really know when we see these things. So I don't believe humans need to be removed from the equation. I think we're really, really good at certain things, and I think the rest should be left to technology. So that's part of it. But yeah, I mean, it's really all about teaching people to find clever ways of turning something they know the answer to into a way to make money. And people keep thinking, oh man, what can I do to come up with $1,000 solution? Stop thinking $1,000. Think about what could you do to create a $5 solution or a $7 solution. Because if you can come up with something that will make you $7 over and over and over and over and over again, you can just automate it and you can get your $1,000 solution made up of lots of little sevens.
Yeah,
it's absolutely insane the way some of the people think about this stuff. Like they're always looking for the home run.
Yeah, no,
I like singles. I like onesies. Like super simple. You don't have to work so darn hard for them.
Mm-hmm.
No, and that's why like that niche kind of focus that you have is very different. People are running for the big $1 million, but look at a lot of successful companies like Dollarama. I mean, they're selling lots of cheap stuff, but
nails, man. You hit it on the head when you said nails. It's like you get people going, oh, I'm hunting whales. I'm looking for the big score.
Yeah,
big scores are hard, right? Like if you use the metaphor of the caveman hunting, let's just use that for a sec. They would get together as a group. They would go off for days or weeks, and oftentimes people in the group would die trying to capture the mammoth or whatever it was they were after, because this animal was massive, but if they got it, like the entire group would, eat for the year, and everyone was like, ooh, you're a hero. I like rabbits. I like hunting rabbits. They are plentiful. They're stupid creatures. They're easy to catch, and they're everywhere.
Yeah.
I don't need to work so hard. I don't need to jeopardize myself or go out into the vast tundra of the unknown and risk my life to catch some elusive whale. I'm like, nope, I'm going after rabbits. I can do it with a BB gun. You do not need a lot of skill to catch rabbits. And as a metaphor for business, so many people look at that and they're like, oh, it's beneath me. It's like, no. What you got to do is come up with these little rabbit traps, these little, $10 a day systems. And you got $300 a month. You grab 10 of those, you're at $3,000. And that's more than most people make. And that's completely passive income at this point. It's like, and you keep adding a couple of those do that for an entire year. And at the end of the year, like if you if you added 5 or 6 of these little, these $10 a day income streams every month, at the end of the year, you have any idea how much money you're compounding in every month. And, people are just sitting there going, oh, it's too easy. It's not supposed to be hard.
No.
Who said it had to be hard? Like, it's incredible. I see people making stupid amounts, making more than me, actually, because they're smarter in some cases. I see people selling, there's this whole thing about selling treasure maps and toothbrushes. There was this time when I used to think, oh, I've got to dig up the gold and I've got to do all the hard work to, I've got to dig my own gold mine. More money was made selling maps, shovels, and all the supplies to the miners of the gold rush that was ever dug out of the ground in gold.
Wow.
And I keep reminding myself, that's why courses are a good idea, by the way. Treasure maps.
Yes.
I'm not saying that they don't lead to value, but there's there's a very, very different way of approaching things, and it's all about mindset, and it's also the tools, like the tools and the technology available to us today. You do not need to be as smart or as trained as I had to be when I was starting out. Like Teachable, okay, it's $40, $50 a month or $100 a month, depending on the plan. You've now got everything you need to teach people, and collect money and deal with everything. Gumroad is free, or it's $10 a month. It's like, and they do very similar things. If you can come up with an idea and you can digitize it. Like, I read something today and I made a note actually, because I thought this was going to be cool. So I showed you the iPad, right? And
Yes.
there's this thing I've been creating and playing around with this art package. With this art package, it's called Procreate. It's brilliant. It's one of the leading packages in the digital art realm. You can create brushes. Okay, so you can create digital paintbrushes. It comes with the software built in to create paintbrushes. I've made my own. You can create palettes. So you can help, you can come up with all the colors you want. This is all digital. I didn't think anything of it until I realized that people are making an absolute freaking killing selling palettes and brushes. And it's like
virtual brushes and palettes.
Oh my goodness me. There's one guy, there's loads of people doing it. Like, like I said, I create my own and I'm just sitting there going, oh, this is great. And I looked around and somebody said, hey, if you'd like to paint like me, you can buy my brush set. It's only $7 on Gumroad. And I'm just like, my brain nearly exploded. And I'm thinking, oh, you dum-dum. You've worked so hard to create training. All you needed to do was spend half an hour and create damn paintbrushes. But, sometimes same idea. It's all about digitization and passive income. Statement. What was the other thing today? Oh, yeah. So I don't like repeating myself. So every time I do something, I write it down. I create SOPs. Standard operating procedure documents, right? And we use them inside our company. And whenever we hire anybody, we use anybody, we go, here's the SOP. It's like monkey see, monkey do. Follow the damn instructions. Do not deviate. Do what we tell you to do. Here's the menu, right? Mm-hmm. I just thought everybody did that. Apparently not.
No.
I bumped into a company today selling their SOP library, so their standard operating procedure library, for $47 digital. And what do you get? A bunch of Word documents and a bunch of PDFs. Wow. They're just selling you copies of their documents. And these guys are selling these day in, day out, as long as the night is day and everything in between. They're making a mint. Why? Because what are they doing? They're saving you time. They're helping you make money. They're reducing risk. They're being convenient. They're like, it's that 7-Eleven mentality. It's that convenience store mentality. You go to a convenience store at 11 o'clock at night and you pay more for, a quart of milk because everyone else is closed. Right? There's that whole dynamic, and it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing what you can do with this stuff. There's no reason for people, even if they've got a regular day job, there's no reason for people to not find a very, very painless way. Another one I saw today. I like to cook. The one thing I think is alchemy, which is basically a black art, I think is baking. If you're a baker, I think you're a wizard, because I don't do baking. I do all the other cooking, but if it comes to because baking is literally, it's a black art. You're playing with sugar and what's the other stuff? See, I don't really know. Yeast and all these things. The thing I wanted to learn was sourdough. It's very trendy. And I came across a training course. It's called Sourdough Simplified. I'm like, oh, you son of a gun! That's a brilliant name. And it's a 2-hour training course, and it teaches you how to make sourdough. It's brilliant. And I'm thinking, it really is no excuse. Everybody knows something that they can teach to somebody else, and the platforms make it painless now. Teachable, Thinkific, Gumroad, Skillshare, everything in between. It's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, no, because there you go. So you could teach. What could you teach? palachinkas or how to make. The other day, our daughter was making Nanaimo bars, and then we're like, oh, my mother-in-law knows exactly like the right amount. And then our daughter kind of mixed it up and it's not quite right.
Yeah, it didn't work out, but anyway.
Because it was written down, but a video, like you said, like a 1 hour video, I'm sure, especially her generation, she would have watched it. And it'd be perfect, on the phone. And let's say you sold it for $1.
Exactly. Like, you know, a couple of bucks just to, cover the cost of the transaction of the platform. Like, people who have, my kids are all grown up. I mean, I'm a grandfather now. Technically, actually. So I got 2 grandchildren, 3 and 2. So but if you want to sort of teach your kids when they're growing, one of the things I think parents today should be doing is encouraging their children to teach. Like, if you want to learn something, try and teach somebody about it, right? That's the old maxim. If you really want to test how much you know about a subject, try and teach it. But you imagine, empowering your children, and I've seen a couple of my business colleagues. We've got a few friends, and one of their daughters is actually creating recipes, and she's selling them online. And it's not massive, but just imagine what that does to a child's view of the world. Like when I was 9, I sold software, and I'm like, what? I'm sorry, someone's going to pay me for an idea that I had? It changed everything for me. And when you teach a child that they're not, valueless or worthless because they're children, and that they can create something that someone else sees as valuable, and that you're creating this seed of an idea in them, that it's like, okay, this is not to say that jobs aren't a good idea, because you know what, they are. But on top of that, a side hustle, a second job or a gig, something that is quasi-automated or even fully automated that brings me in a few $100s a month. Even if all it did was bring in $500 a month, that's a holiday. That's $6,000 a year. That's a hell of a holiday.
A lot.
That's a car payment. That's like a lot of the kids I've seen over the years, a lot of the millennials in particular, they've been creating these side hustles and these courses and this digitized stuff on the side to pay off their schools, their academic loans. Like, who wants to 20 or 30 years be still paying this stuff off? I have a couple of loans from a long time ago when I had to clean some stuff up after I got divorced. Yay! And one of the best ways, rather than taking it out of your everyday money, go create a revenue stream that pays it off. That's what I did.
Yeah. No.
It's like, I don't have to think about it no more because it's just being paid. And then when that gets paid off and it's finished, that money's going into my bank account and it'll be mine to keep. So I just went off, that's like a $300 bill or something. And I just went off and created one little passive income stream that pays it. So it's like, to my ex-wife, but a little bit.
So do you only have passive income, James, or are you always like developing? I have a hard time saying that word in English. Developing other ideas. Is that kind of what you do all the time? Is always developing other things that are?
Oh yeah, I'm notorious. I have one wickedly restless mind. My mum used to tell me when I was little, because I've always had a hard time sleeping, and she used to say that is the curse of a creative mind. So I like to find problems. I like to try and solve them. I like to systemize them, create the training, put it out there, and it's like, okay, next, and I'm on to the next. I'm always on to the next thing. I'm always looking to try and solve these things. I do consulting and one-on-one coaching, but not too much, because guess what?
Repeating.
You get asked the same damn questions. So it's like, you got to pay me a lot of money to do the same thing twice. But and it's not to say that there's no value in it for the clients. Obviously there is. And of course, if you do it repeatedly, you get really good and very quick at it. But it's painful. I mean, without sounding like flippant, I really do have a hard time repeating things. It's like, there's no fun in it for me, right? It's like puzzles. I just like, that was my whole career. I would go into companies, sight unseen. I had no idea what I was walking into. And it would be like, okay, James, you've got 90 days, go.
Bang.
And that was it, right? You were expected to solve the problem. And I never did. I never failed. And it's not to think, I'm not saying it's because I think I'm that smart. It's just, I think in many cases, business problems weren't that complicated. But it was always a nice challenge, and it was always exhausting because, you're under the gun, but it was just the way I think. So like even today, I was talking to my business partner, we, working on another business that we're developing and a couple of other ideas. And I've spent the better part of my free time for the last 2 weeks thinking about a new marketing solution that I want to offer to small businesses. And, it's a bit ass backwards because I want to offer it at absolutely no cost to businesses, to create the solution and work with them. When you're dealing with a client, in many cases, you're always trying to convince them to hire you, right? So you spend all this time, aren't I smart? Aren't I clever? Here's my testimonials. Look at the clients, this and da. So you're spending a lot of time trying to convince people to buy or kind of, move forward. So I thought, and this is what I used to do when I was programming a long time ago, be like, let's just cut to the chase. Stop asking me questions. Point me at the code. Test me, right? And so it was like, I don't need to prove it, or I don't need to tell you, let me prove it. And so I was talking to my business partner. I said, one of the things we could do is we could just skip to the whole thing and just say, stop trying to get people to try and pay you to kind of do these things. We could turn around and go, here's a sort of I'll build a custom solution for you. And it'll be automated. It'll be a lead generator. It'll follow up. It'll do all these things. It uses all this cool tech. I'll pay for everything up front. If you like it, then you can pay me a monthly fee moving forward. In other words, you can basically pay a membership and I'll look after it because now I'm vested in your success. So the more success you get, the more you're going to want to keep renewing it. And if you don't, fine, just don't renew or don't do it in the first place. So I just thought it was a completely zero risk approach to creating automated marketing systems for businesses. And
that's a great idea.
Well, you know what? I think so. I just have to be careful because otherwise, we need to make sure that we put sort of parameters on the initial build. Otherwise, if they turn, I can't spend a year building something.
No, that's it.
I need to be able to build it in about a month or less, and then it needs to hit the road and actually start, yielding value. And then it's like, okay, that's the service, and if you want to keep it, this is the price. And then every month thereafter, this is the part that I thought was cool, was I'll give every person that keeps, re-upping, I'll give them a credit, and that credit can be used to buy more add-ons and more enhanced features. So it gets smarter and smarter and smarter. And of course, I have a vested interest in everyone's success because I want to build a solution that they can't afford to not be with. Basically, I'm banking on them wanting to keep it. In other words, I'm putting my money where my mouth is and going, I think I am that smart. So I will build it at my cost. And if, it works, which I know it will, because I've done it enough times, you're going to want to keep it. So it's like, that'll be interesting. So that's the kind of stuff I'm thinking of that and some artificial intelligence stuff. So I've been playing around with AI.
Oh, really? Okay, wow.
So if I'm not doing that, I'm cooking or painting.
Perfect. Wow. Yeah. So many, such a different way of thinking. Thank you so much for taking the time to share with us a little bit about your story and just, a different way of thinking. So passive income, is already a different way of thinking than offering leading with value. So free, freemium or free version of something is very different. Most people, like you said, try to sell you something and ram it down your throat. And repeating, which I do a lot of right now. So not repeating, getting a robot to repeat, and you get the creative thinking and the fun stuff. So,
well, a lot of people don't realize there's a few things that, when we're trying to sell, first of all leads are not created equal. And we don't know whether the person we're talking to is going to prove to be a good lead or a waste of our time. And we can't be disrespectful. We can, but it's not good for business. So you have to assume everybody you talk to, they might be a diamond or they might be a dog, right? That was the old way we used to be. Dogs and diamonds was the way it was explained to me when I was younger, and it was like, you just don't know, and you can't be rude, and you can't spend the same amount of time with everybody because first of all, it's not scalable. And if you follow marketing dogma, you're supposed to follow up between 5 and 8 times before you're going to be able to close that deal. And whatever those 5 or 8 touches are, emails, conversations, phone calls, coffee meetings, lunches. If you assume that And according to Harvard, every interruption is it's about 20 to 30 minutes before you can get back into the flow. So let's just say half an hour minimum, and that's just for like a phone call or an email. It's more like an hour if you're going actually to a meeting or dealing with them in live. So if you think 8, you're looking between 4 and 8 hours of your time for every lead. And if every one of those leads, you simply don't know the value of them, if you assume 10% of your leads turn out to be diamonds, 90% turn out to be dogs, that's a silly amount of time. So that's why we use systems. And, the idea of being able to create systems that automate your sales and marketing, not to get more and more leads so that you can get more and more, conversations going, but to actually filter the time wasters so that you can respectfully spend the time with the people that really, really want what you've got. Like, it's so much more fun to work with a client that you can afford to actually almost like smother them to death with service. Like you can, you're there, you can be all the things they need. And they're like, holy cow, how can you afford to be so supportive? It's like, because I don't waste my time on the tire kickers.
That's it.
Right? Like, people say to me, how is it you can do that? And it's like, yeah, it's because I don't treat you all equally, but I'm not rude about it. And, that's why I create these systems. And that's why I, at my, on my online academy, I've got all these different training courses about productivity, about creating courses. You familiar with the Coursepreneur training, or at least,
yes.
By the way,
implement it.
Do you mind if I mention the fact that I just recently dropped the price for a?
You dropped it. It was already low.
I did actually, and not only did I drop it, I brought it down from I can't remember what it was, $299 or $399. I brought it down to I think it's $187, or 2 payments of $99. And it also comes with a full money back guarantee. So you can basically get access to absolutely everything for $99, and you can try it out. See, the thing is, it's 2 payments of $99. So you got 30 days. So you pay $99 now, and then 30 days later. If you follow the formula and you do the job properly, you'll make back your money before the end of the month. So it's not like you're actually ponying it up. But, even if you do have to pay after 30 days because it takes you a bit longer, $187 for something that I normally charge thousands for if I'm coaching privately. Again, and the reason I do this is because I really want people, especially now, with all the people working from home and all the people stuck, and some people are really hurting. It's like I turned around and went, you know what? I won't give it away entirely for free, because I'd love to, and I would, but I have seen that if I give my stuff away for free, the people that take it don't do anything with it. And it's not because they don't and I still to this day, I can't wrap my head around that. It's like, if you get it for free, you think it's worthless, but you pay something and you do something with it. In fact, the more money I charge for my training, the more success I generally get. The most money I've ever charged for a client, the client with the most results. The less you charge tends to be the less motivated people are. So I'm still on the fence about the fact I'm only charging like $187 for this, but I really, really I'm hoping people are kind of wake up to the fact that that's not a reflection of value. That's just the fact that I'm weird.
You're experimenting with people.
I'm experimenting. It's like, take advantage of me, because it won't last forever.
No. So where can that be found? The Coursepreneur, is it coursepreneur.com, I think? That's
the one. Yep. Coursepreneur, like the word, course, and then preneur. So COURSEPRENEUR.com. Coursepreneur.com. Yeah. And, or if you can't find that because you can't figure out how to spell it, just go to jamestraining.com, because I own that domain too.
James Training, and I saw jamesburchill.com.
Yeah, most people have a hard time spelling my last name, which is why I went, you know what? People screw up my last name all the time. So I thought,
think there's another H or something, probably.
Yeah, or an I. It's BURCHILL.
No, yeah.
BIR. So I'm like, you know what? JamesTraining.com.
JamesTraining.com. That's easy.
Yeah.
Excellent.
You'll find it there. If you go to jamestraining.com, you'll see all the currently available, publicly available training. And the reason I mention that is because there's a ton of training hidden that I make available to people who are part of my Scooby gang. And I think I just dated myself then.
Scooby gang, yeah. That's cool.
Yeah, it's my
the mystery machine and all that stuff.
That's right. Velma and the rest of the crew. I like Shaggy and Scooby-Doo myself. I also like the
Smart
fact that he was a talking dog. Come on, what's not to like?
Yes, with the Scooby snacks and everything.
Yeah, that was
Every time they
perfect.
come out with a new cartoon, I watch it. I know. I don't know what that says about me, but I love cartoons. So.
Oh, really? Well, that's fun. Well, you can watch them with your grandkids now. It can be an excuse.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, they're in England. I have to.
Oh.
So I haven't. You know what? I haven't seen my grandkids yet. I haven't seen my own children in a while. But I have not met my grandchildren because
Wow.
Oh.
they were born, and then we were planning on going, and then you want to wait for them to sort of be old enough to kind of, and then COVID hit, and then it rolled on and rolled on. So one of my grandkids has had all their birthdays inside the whole COVID lockdown, so they've not even had a proper birthday party. Like many, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm sure this is the case for many kids. I know our kids were disappointed to have their birthdays this year in COVID lockdown.
Yeah, not great.
It is what it is.
Yeah, you do what you got to do, right?
Absolutely.
So thank you so much. It's been a pleasure chatting with you. And
absolutely.
Yeah, those who want to take up James on his offer, like $199 to make thousands potentially. Well, $7, $187. Yeah, sorry,
$187.
$187.
Yeah,
and you're making $7 per month. Just kidding. But lots and lots of little courses where you can really scale and grow, and it's achievable. So yeah, visit coursepreneur.com. And
I mean, it works pretty much for any industry. I mean, for those, like, we didn't really talk about this, and I know we probably don't have time, but I produced until COVID. I have had one of the largest independent wine production crews. We used to do all these wine tasting events. And the whole event production business, which is currently sitting in the toilet right now, thanks to COVID. But but all of these things, and I teach people how to produce events. I teach people how to network. Like if you're a realtor, for instance, and you have all these, like, you don't need to know everything, and you sure as heck don't need to teach everybody everything. You just need to know one or two little tricks. And if it saves you the money or the time that the cost of your whatever it is you're selling is, people will pay you for it.
Yeah, we're all looking to compress time. Like we want to.
Well, it's the one thing you don't have any more of, right? And you can't scale it.
No, you can't scale. Can't leverage time. Well, you can leverage other people's experience and stuff, but yeah, you can't expand your time. So that's why this is so smart, and
it's important too.
Yeah, so enriching. And I agree with you, like teaching your kids to earn like those passive incomes that can change their lives forever. So thank you for your words of wisdom. That's great.
You know what? I could talk about this stuff. Well, I do. I could talk about this stuff for days. And it's because I'm just so passionate about it. I just think it's something that everybody really don't think about it. Just like throw yourself in the deep end. Like, what's the worst that can happen? You do not need to spend a fortune on any of the things that you might think. Just if you've got a smartphone, even an old, like until recently, I had an iPhone 6. Like I did not bother upgrading just because it was more than adequate. I actually created an entire training course with an iPhone 6, nothing else, just to prove a point. And I made more money than the iPhone 6 was worth. So, right? Yeah. So it can be done. But, it's not about the tech. It's not about the rest of it. It's about finding a problem that somebody will pay you, pizza money for. But it's not the fact that it's pizza money. It's the fact that it's over and over and over. Like Udemy. We didn't even talk about Udemy. I get paid on average between $2 and $5 every time somebody buys one of my courses on Udemy.
Wow.
At the height of Udemy, I was making around $2,500 to $3,000 US a month.
Wow. That's crazy.
That was one revenue stream. Do the math.
Wow.
Wow, that's amazing.
Can't wait to apply it. We have to get on it, Jennifer.
just start.
Yes.
Just start. Like, you don't even have to be good about it. And here's the other thing. Don't overanalyze it. Don't think, I got to get it right, because chances are you're going to screw it up the first time you try it.
Yeah.
Like the first time I created something stupid. It was brilliant. At least I think so. But it turns out that there was a market, but nobody could afford to pay for it. So it was a goose egg. Loads of demand, no cash. Next one, sort of. Third one, I knocked it out of the park. But basically, it It was miss, home run.
Good.
Now, normally you don't get a home run on the third try. If you think about it, if you think I'm gonna plan on always failing and maybe getting 1 out of 10, that's a particularly low number. You'll do better than that. But
Yeah.
you imagine if you start banging out these things quickly, because that's the other thing. I'm not about, oh, it's going to take me a year to produce. No. The stuff I talk about creating in my Coursepreneur course, you can create in 10 hours or less.
Wow.
You could do one course every weekend. That's 4 products at the end of a month. That's 8 at the end of 2 months. That is a lot of products at the end of a year. And if only half of those made you $10 a day, that's pretty damn impressive.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Even if a small number only made you a chunk of change, it's still more money, and it's autopilot income.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I like I said, I'm a big fan. There's no reason why people shouldn't be doing this. You know, and if fear is the only thing stopping you, I just say, don't tell anybody. Just go and do it. You know, just, you don't need to advertise it to your friends. Just go and create something and then run a few quiet little ads. And you know what? The moment somebody buys something and you make your first $1, you'll be just sitting there going, oh my God, I just made money out of thin air. And then you'll be sitting there going, if I can make $1, I can make $10. Then I can make 100 and then 1,000. The day you start making thousands and tens of thousands, you will lose your mind. I assure you, it's utterly addictive.
Yeah.
Wow, that's so amazing. We definitely are going to have to apply it.
That's our next thing. We were just talking about what to do next, so maybe that's it.
That's the next thing.
The next step.
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks again.
It's been a real pleasure, and thank you so much for letting me share my enthusiasm for this topic. And I appreciate, you know, a little all over the map at times, but if people take anything from this, it's that it is entirely achievable. No, you don't have to, you know, create something that makes massive amounts of cash. You just need to create something that, if you can create a system that can create $1 or $2 or $3 on a consistent basis, then all you do is you just dial it up because it's a system.
Yeah.
You know. Anyway, that's me. That's what I do.
Well, thank you, James. You're so passionate about it. I love that.
That I am. You know, I love to help people. So, I mean, for those that, you know, I'll help as many as I can for free. And at the end of the day, unfortunately, I still need to get paid. So I try and get paid. So I do sell my stuff, but I also try and help as many as I can. So there's plenty of resources floating around on my website that, you know, you can download and access for $0. So if you can't afford any of the stuff I'm doing, that shouldn't stop you from at least being able to benefit. So I do my best.
That's awesome. That's
what I have. I try, you know. So thank you.
Thank you very much. And we'll have to stay in touch and see what's next.
Yeah, for sure. Well, you know where to find me. And if I can be of any assistance, it would be my honor and my privilege. So thank you.
Thank you.
James.
Cheers.